There we go. Cool. All right.
So now I have to behave?
You have to behave, John. I know it's tough, but I believe you can do it. All right. So welcome to our Pacific Trail Scouts BSA Roundtable discussion. I'm going to mute a few folks. It's kind of noisy all of a sudden. John, it must be you. And right off the top, this is a little bit more of a presentation than I've done for you troop leaders over the past, what have I been doing this 2 years or so now? And I recognize that. I recognize that we need to have time for a conversation, because conversations are important. But a lot of this is information that I've learned and that I've gleaned and I've been told, and I want to convey it to you because there are best practices in here and some ideas. I will stop for questions. If you put a question in the chat and say, hey, Mike, what does that mean? Or, hey, Mike, you spelled that wrong, which is usually Heather's trick. Absolutely. You can put it in the chat or unmute yourself and just say, hey, Mike, I got a quick question. That's cool. I'm very cool with that. I will do my best to watch the chat. If I'm looking up, I'm looking at you in the chat. If I'm looking here, I'm looking at the slides and telling you what I have in my notes. Please do pose questions if you need clarification or interrupt me. It's all good. And if you have any war stories or anything like, my troop has had just a terrible time of this problem, and it's specific to your troop in your situation, let's talk offline. Let's talk you and me, make an appointment. I'll give you a call. You can call me. We can talk over email, whatever works for you, and we can work one-on-one. I want this to be an overall best practices conversation. Is everybody good with that? Yeah. John, you okay with that? Chris, does that sound okay? Okay. Beth says it's all right. All right. Awesome. Thank you. That's the whole point. So our entire topic today is youth member recruitment. And I'm going to show you more about the #AdventureOn thing. This is National Council has a lot of resources for us. It's kind of cool. There's a lot of stuff. It looks good. And I'm going to encourage you to use that. I'll have that on the other end of our conversation here. And as with any educator or somebody who's taken public speaking, you know that you have to set up your learning objectives first. So what are we going to do today? 3 things. This comes to you in 3 parts. We're going to try to understand how our troops typically recruit. New scouts come into your troop. How does that happen? And I think I know for most of us how that happens. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I understand the process. And I want to take the second part of the time and explore other ways that we could open up our minds and our ideas to other venues, other avenues to bring new youth into our troops. This is specific to troop recruitment, of course. And finally, the third part is general overarching. We're going to take that step back and say, what is the best practice? What are the things you can do right now, today, after we have this conversation to make recruitment work, hopefully better for your troop? What are we not covering? This is important because I need to bound this. We're not talking about retention. Retention is a whole different hour-long conversation we can have a little bit later in the year. Once you get the scouts in, how do you keep them? How do you have a great program? How do you engage the families? That is an entirely different thing, right? I am not going to cover the packs that your troop should be approaching or is allowed to recruit from. I don't believe in is allowed to. You should be reaching out to all of the packs in your general area that you have a connection with or even don't have a connection with. And we will talk about that in just a moment. I am not going to cover Webelos-to-Woods, the awesome event that happened a couple months ago by Beth and Glenn's hard work and the Webelos-to-Woods that we hope to have later on this year. That is separate from this conversation. Webelos-to-Woods is awesome, but is actually outside the scope of what we're talking about today. This is your troop recruiting scouts into your troop, right? Webelos-to-Woods is a district event, getting Cub Scouts excited about that next step. If we do our job right, those scouts come out of Webelos-to-Woods getting all excited to be troop members and then are ready to come to your campouts and your troop meetings and join, right? We're not going to point fingers. We're not going to blame. We're not going to call people names or try to identify root causes for any individual troops' problems. Let's do that, you and me. Chris is going to call me tomorrow and say, Mike, man, my troop, and we can talk for 3 hours. That's awesome. But let's not do that here. I'm also not going to cover Cub Scout recruitment. About half of you know that I can talk for 3 hours on that topic. Let's not do that. That's completely outside the scope of this. Cub Scout recruitment is a whole different thing. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second because I need to have a heart-to-heart with everybody. Your district key 3, Jeff Deline, Pete Simpson, and myself have embraced a theme for recruitment this year, for the recruitment of troops and packs, for our troops and packs to be successful at recruitment. It's no holds barred. This is how we really feel. And we think it's important that everyone just understand that this is kind of where we're at today. There are some of our troops that aren't here yet, but there are a lot of our troops in our district that are. So I don't mean to cause anybody to have offense or anything. And when I say this, but this is reality that we live in today. Our motto is very simply recruit or die. And I guarantee you, if your troop fails to recruit consistently, your troop will die in about 6 years, period. End of sentence. And we don't want that. We want every single one of our troops in our district to be successful. So we're going to take this and we're going to turn it on our heads and we're going to say, we're going to succeed. So I hope everybody's okay with that. I know it's kind of, I know a few of our council folks chuckled at this when we came up with it, but I feel very strongly this is where we're at right now today. And it's this way because of the bankruptcy, and it's this way because of the pandemic. Those two things combined have hurt bad, especially our packs. So with that in mind, I want to do a very brief vocabulary lesson. And I learned this about 3 weeks ago. Static recruitment versus dynamic recruitment. You're going to see points of this throughout our entire presentation. As somebody myself who did Cub Scout recruitment for about 6 years as a committee chair with my pack, we did static recruitment twice a year, spring and fall. And static recruitment can be characterized as it's event-based, right? We're having a join night on this night. We're having a palooza on this date. And then our join event is done, our joining season is done, and we go on with the business of scouting, right? It's a little bit more formalized. It's usually seasonal. The complement to that is dynamic recruitment. It is always on. You're always looking for where those new scouts might be. It's usually a little bit more casual. We'll talk about this a little bit later. And it's very much relationship based. Here's the bonus. These two things work really nicely together. The Venn diagram works. You can do both. You can be successful with both. Okay. So when I talk about dynamic recruitment, I'm talking about things like peer-to-peer recruitment, that always on mentality of accepting a new youth member, whether it's January, May, September, March, I don't care. Whenever they show up, we're going to onboard them. We're going to get them going. Is everybody good with that? Does that make sense? Has anybody heard that before? Dynamic versus static? Yeah, okay. Kim has. That's awesome. It was new to me, so I wanted to share it with you. Okay, so I am an engineer by trade. I take a large problem, such as recruitment, and I divide it down into manageable problems. And I've done that with this because I like to think of how do we divide and conquer. So I've divided this down into the two different funnels that we tend to get new scouts into our troop. The first and most prominent is directly from Cub Scout packs, those Arrow of Light scouts that are presumably wrapping up Arrow of Light. They just finished it up and they're ready to join a troop. It's about this time of year, right? Usually, or maybe off into April, May, depending. And they join your troop and off we go, right? The other bucket is kind of everything else. In essence, a youth that comes into your troop that is not prior to that have any relationship with Boy Scouts of America in any way, shape, or form. Yes, there is a third possibility of a transfer from a troop into your troop. I'm not going to talk about that. That's a totally different deal. We're talking about new youth into scouting troop structure. I think I said that right. And they're coming into your troop. How do we do that? So we're going to take that problem, we're going to divide it in half and cover one thing at a time. Everybody good so far? Couple thumbs up, a nod, a shake of the head. Okay, thanks.
I was going to say, one thing we've had a couple of people who dropped out and rejoined. Maybe not, they may have dropped out of our troop. Maybe they dropped out of a different troop and then they found out about ours through some other way. So it's kind of a third bucket,
Interesting.
Part of number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had at least 2 of those.
Yeah, so I'm going to make the distinction between these two of one group you have to sell on scouting and one group you don't. And you already know which one you have to sell scouting on because your Cub Scouts and their families have already bought in. Let's dig into bucket number 1 first. Okay. Part 1 is recruiting current Cub Scouts. Everyone here should be relatively familiar with this process. Year over year, your troop should be fostering relationships with the packs in your general geographic area. And I say general because, if I am the scoutmaster of a troop in Gaston, I'm probably not going to reach out to the packs over in Raleigh Hills and vice versa. It just doesn't make sense. But what your geographic area means to your troop is completely up to you. I am not going to tell you where to go hunt for Cub Scouts and invite them to your things, right? That is up to you. And I am also not going to get in the middle of a spat of, well, we recruit from this pack and it's ours. That goes against my philosophy. I think every Cub Scout should be given plenty of opportunities to choose from. That's where I come from. Every troop should be inviting Cub Scouts, 4th and 5th grade, 9, 10 years old, working on Arrow of Light, maybe even finishing up the Webelos badge to visit your troop meetings, your pack, your patrol meetings, your campouts. You don't really get to know someone until you go camping, right? That's when you really get to know somebody. That's powerful. Come camping with us. Come do something exciting, right? Other activities, hiking, biking, paddling. Got to be careful with the Guide to Safe Scouting with things like boating, but you can do that. You can invite them. They can come along for the ride on pretty much anything your troop is doing. Be careful with things like rock climbing, of course, and recognize the Guide to Safe Scouting does kick in. But there are a ton of fun things you can do with Cub Scouts. Make sure you're following up with the pack leaders, the Cub Master, the committee chair, the den leaders. Hey, we had 3 young scouts come in, Johnny, Billy, and Willie. How are they doing? Have they made a decision yet? Could we invite them to another thing? Always follow up until they finally said, hey, we're joining a troop and sorry, it's not you. Keep that communication line open. As much as most of our troops, if not all of them, really espouse the youth-led troop model, we need to be very careful about dividing that workload here. And my recommendation is that the adult leadership team should drive the connection and the invitations primarily, because I don't want to necessarily hand off senior patrol leader, hey, you should go contact this random den leader that you don't know and make sure you copy a bunch of adults. No. Make sure it's your membership chair, your committee chair, your scoutmaster, whoever is that primary membership person reaching out to Cub Masters, den leaders, committee chairs of packs, the whole bit. You drive the connection, you maintain the relationship, and then get the youth to buy in on the program. What are we going to do when they come to a troop meeting? What kind of activities are we going to have at a camp out? How do we make sure that Cub Scouts can go on a bike ride with us? You fill in the blank, right? What should we do to have an exciting event for these Cub Scouts that are coming to visit? Get the PLC involved, get your senior patrol leaders buy-in. And I say this because out of experience, don't let a senior patrol leader that isn't bought into your recruitment, don't allow them to ruin your recruitment run, right? That's not okay. We have our youth are across the board. They're all different. And some of them just don't see recruitment as important. And if that's the case, go ahead and take that back and help them do some of that planning. And I also want to mention in terms of current Cub Scout recruitment, for a lot of our packs, if you haven't noticed, they're hurting right now. And their calendar is really messed up. If you are used to having Cub Scouts join in February, they might not show up till May or June, or vice versa. Who knows? Communication is key. Be flexible. And I say this because I want to say it was about 5 years ago, we were doing a crossover in late January. Heather knows this story. And it was a big group of scouts, like 13, and half of them were crossing over to this troop. And I sidled up to an assistant scoutmaster in the back, and I'm just saying hello and schmoozing. And he turns to me and says, Mike, we're not ready for these scouts yet. It's too early. I'm sorry. You should be ready. You should always be ready. I know 6 is a lot sometimes for some troops, but oh my gosh, talk about the wrong mentality. You're welcome. Here's half a dozen new troop members. Come on, guys. So open minds. When they arrive, that's when you start. I know we have in our troop right now, a young lady that's ready to join, has finished the Arrow of Light, but her Cub Master hasn't quite figured out how to do crossover yet. So we're working with them to try to figure out, hey, can we just register her with the troop so she can actually start working on rank advancements and actually start signing these things off? We can't sign stuff off until they're actually members, right? Holding on to that Cub Scout's kind of a disservice to that young lady. So figure those things out, be flexible. I know that most of you are, I really appreciate that, but it's just a reminder, right? It's not easy. This is something that I tell Cub Scout leaders every single time I talk about recruitment. A 12-month calendar is a powerful tool. When you hand that calendar to a scout, a potential scout, or more importantly, their parent, their grandparent, their guardian, whoever it is, and you say the words, this is what we're doing for the next 12 months. Please join us. Boom. That is, you look like you know what you're doing. You've invited them to come along. They can look at the list of events that you're doing for the next 12. Oh my gosh, they're going rock climbing. They're going whitewater rafting. I want to do that. I want to do that. You've already sold your program. You look like you know exactly what you're doing. Maybe you stitched it together at PLC a week ago. I don't care. It's a 12-month calendar and it is rock and roll. Work with your PLC, work with your committee, make sure there's a calendar. It looks nice. Hey, pro tip, one single page. One page is a calendar because that goes on the refrigerator for the first couple months, right? The flip side of that, print on the other side, all the contact information and little tidbits about your troop. Where do you meet? When do you meet? What's the Scoutmaster's phone number? What's the committee chair's phone number? What is the treasurer's phone number? Email, the whole bit. And then they won't be lost. We did this with our Cub Scout pack, a one sheet, we called it, and it was a fantastic success. Also, when you have new Cub Scouts, when they come in, whether it's January or May, get them to summer camp. Get them to summer camp. Every single Cub Scout who joins and then goes to a Scouts BSA summer camp comes back, almost no exception, enthusiastic, jazzed about the program, ready to continue, looking forward to doing advancement, going camping, and all those next things. Summer camp is like, it's like steroids for scouting. It's amazing. Get them to summer camp. There should be no excuse. Reserve them a seat. If there's an issue with finances, there are camperships available. You all know this, right? Please lean into that as much as you can. And Heather can speak to this next one a little bit if she wants to, but having an onboarding process is critical. This speaks to retention. And Heather, do you want to talk about this for just 30 seconds or do you want me to take it?
I'm not quite sure which angle you're going for here, but
it's the welcoming new Cubs to your, or new families to your pack, but troop version, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing, so having experienced it, our adults who have spent a lot of time together tend to like to hang out together. And I mean, this is assuming when you're in person. On Zoom, it's a lot different, but, and so I think it's really important that you have at least one person who's designated as the person who's going to, kind of do the welcoming and go talk to people and talk about the troop, because there's nothing less inviting than a new prospective parent walking into a room and all the adults are standing around talking to each other and no one has time to even say hello to you and you know nothing about the troop. You need at least one person to be welcoming in some way, shape, or form with information. Here's what's coming up. Here's who I am and that sort of thing. And if nothing else, just be nice to people and not make it. It's just awkward. And that it did happen to me when I walked in to my very first troop meeting. There was a whole room full of adults. There was probably 6 or 7 standing around talking to each other, and only one said hello to me as a new parent. And that's not a good feeling as a new parent. Mm-hmm. So have at least one person, even if it's not like an actual new parent welcoming committee person, just somebody just like, hey, would you welcome new parents tonight?
Yeah, exactly. So. And Heather's point is critical in that we form our friendship groups. This troop starts to become our second family. And we need to be cognizant, if you aren't already, of the new families coming in and not being a little clique of adult friends. And along with that, people who are coming in from Cub Scout packs understand the scouting program. They understand how packs work. They may not know how your troop works. They may not know how finances work in your troop. They may not understand fully how advancement is incredibly different between packs and troops. Take that time, again, whether it's the welcome wagon or a more formalized sit down hour-long conversation of, hey, here's how a troop is different than a pack, right? And that's going to make sure ensure that your families feel welcome, and then hopefully that'll trickle down to the youth members sticking around longer. Thanks, Heather, for chiming in on that. I appreciate it. You fundamentally, for Cub Scouts, transitioning into your troop, are selling two very different things. You're selling fun to the youth, period. They want to go have fun. They want to have adventures. The adults, on the other hand, that bring them, whether it's their parents, their grandparents, their guardians, whatever, they're looking for positive experiences. They're looking for values. They're looking for some place for their youth to fit in. And this comes directly from a survey that was done by BSA National Council. If anybody wants the raw data, the original thing, I can find it somewhere. This was done in 2019, pre-pandemic. I know it's pre-pandemic, but it's a really good set of information. They just basically asked, what of these things would make you more likely to recommend scouting? And of course, Cub Scouts, it's all about fun, but it's still the case for youth members, right? I want to go have fun. I want to have adventures. I want to do things with my friends. Your parents of your new Scouts BSA members are looking for that positive experience, reinforcing positive values, all those things. And they want their scout to join a unit that at least looks like, if not does, know what they're doing, right? Not just floundering. And yes, we all know a properly youth-led troop meeting, there's just at least a little bit of chaos, and that's okay to mention that, right? But look as they get older, the older youth leaders, or more experienced, I should say, reinforcing worthwhile values and being a part of an organization where they feel like they belong. This is a really interesting set of data. I want to encourage you to look it up if you haven't seen it. And I'll try to find the resource. Another thing I want to mention real quick, if you haven't done it before, or if you're on pause, den chiefs are absolutely key to maintaining the positive relationship from your troop to the packs that you connect with. They serve as a good role model. A good den chief will make a den leader's experience much easier. There's a complement to that, though, and that points to my last two little key points here of, this is not a voted on position, right? This is a position that the Scoutmaster typically has authority to ask a youth, hey, I think you'd be a great den chief. Would you be willing to do this? What does your calendar look like, and all that stuff? And you're looking for emotional, social maturity, that role model that they can be for fourth and fifth graders, right? I have seen personally more than one den chief show up that is nothing more than an additional Cub Scout, and that's not helpful for your den leader in any way, shape, or form. Make it a good experience for the den leader, and then the den leader goes, hey, troop 123 over here knows what they're doing. They sent me an awesome den leader. That's the way to go. And I say that because the den chief for my oldest son's den was a rock star, and I was pleased as punch to help him out with his Eagle Scout project on his 11th and a half hour before his 18th birthday, but still he made it, right? And that was a positive experience. It was amazing. If you're not familiar with den chiefs, there's a link here. I know we're coming out of a pandemic. Think about this. This is really a good way to connect with those packs that are around you. Send them a den chief if you can. Do you know what the packs that are around you? Geographically speaking, you probably have packs that you've reached out to in years past. Some of them, I hope, are still around. I know we've lost a few in the past few years. What I want to point you to is a spreadsheet that I have been cultivating over the past few years. Some of you have probably seen this. It's a Google Sheet that has two tabs, one for troops, one for packs. And I'm doing my best to keep this up to date and maintained. There might still be some stale data in terms of who's just the perfect contact for this pack. And it includes, actually, let me show it to you. Let me go find, sorry for the delay. I think I actually closed my browser. It doesn't take very long to bring up. Heather, you can see my browser here, right? Yeah, okay, cool. Hopefully Google Drive will respond. And I just had it open. So my computer's whirring very quickly. So something's going on in the background. Here we go. Unit contacts. Okay, so this is what I'm pointing you to. It is unit level contacts. You're all welcome to this. There is personal contact information here, so please, don't spread it around everywhere. But if you are a troop in Hillsborough, as an example, and you're looking around to, hey, what packs are near me? I've got the pack number, the chartered org is the next column, and the location. So, hey, look, 195's in Hillsborough. Josh Steinhurst. Hey, I know him. He comes to Roundtable. Great. There's his email address. There's some other Hillsborough, Greg Rule up there at 566. You are welcome to use this. And I think, John, did you just post the link? John,
no, I posted something else that might be of use to people.
Okay. John
Hopefully,
posted something else.
If you click on it, I will see. I'm not sure if everyone else can see it or not.
Oh, John, I need access. So we'll let John work on that for just a second. I want to show you something else that I use. I used a lot as a pack leader. And it's a very simple site that's very powerful. And I think you should all know it. BSA-scout.org. Punch in your zip code, select Cub Scouts, and let's go find the map and see who's near you. Hopefully it's accurate. It works very, very well. So let's say I'm in, again, Hillsborough, and maybe I'm Beth or Nathan, and I'm saying, hey, man, I can't remember the Cub Scout packs that are over on the other side of Hillsborough. If you start with a list, click to the map view, and it actually opens up quite a bit. Hopefully I'm not going too quick for everybody. Zoom in, and what's near me. Oh, hey, look, we've got pack 260 up here, and we've got 195 over here. 721 doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. So there is a little bit of stale data in this database. I apologize for that. And that's why I really want you to focus on the spreadsheet. I will say this. Oh, go ahead, John.
My link works now.
You promise?
Some stale data too, I promise.
Hang on, let's see if it comes up. Oh, wait, here we go. Okay, John, you're going to point me to something crazy here. Ooh, John has a map for us, a Google map. Oh, look at this. Awesome.
So yeah, you could.
All right. John's got a Google map overlay of packs throughout our area.
There's a tab for troops, for boy troops and girl troops too.
Cool. Yeah, so take advantage of that. That's great. So thanks, John, for sharing that. That's really cool. So if you haven't tried it before, use BSA-scout.org, find that map and just reach out. And if you don't have contact information, go refer to that spreadsheet. And if for some reason it's not up to date, let me know. It is a living document. Do not be the troop that simply waits at the end of the Cub Scout conveyor belt expecting new members to fall into your lap. Ultimately, it doesn't work. It requires your troop and your team to actively engage and reach out to packs in your area and scouts and den leaders and say, please come join us. Be a part of our family. Here's how awesome we are. Be active, be friendly, be welcoming, be respectful, be positive. And ultimately, you are the ambassador of your troop scouting program, right? One of the phrases used by one of the folks from National was 456, trustworthy, friendly, helpful, courteous, kind. 456. Remind your scouts about 456. Scout law points. With that, I'm going to take a pause and ask if anybody has a question about part 1, recruiting Cub Scouts. Is everybody doing okay? I'm running long as usual. Those of you that know me are not surprised. Okay, thanks, John Dell. John Dell's got a thumbs up, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. Again, please feel free to stop me if you have questions. I don't mind answering questions. I will ask questions too. Why not? Part 2 is coming to you now. Youth that are not currently registered in Scouts BSA. For this, I'm going to say you need your youth's help. There are people in this world that will tell you should reach out to middle schools and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, you can do that, and you might be successful. It's a hard hill to climb for a whole bunch of reasons. I'm going to try to focus on the methods that I know that do work, and that is peer-to-peer recruitment, peer-to-peer networking, the invite a friend mentality. Also, if you haven't heard of it before, you can have friend-storming activities where your scouts get together and start tossing around names of people that they know that might be interested in the scouting adventure, and take those names and see what we can do with it. Reach out. More than just the static recruitment of, hey, scouts, we're going to have a join night on, I don't know, Saturday, March something at the church, pizza, blah, blah, blah. I want you to consider trying something different for this in particular. For the Cub Scout thing, for PAX, what we've got basically works. But bringing scouts in, I think of it as from the side, if you will, that are not currently engaged in Scouts BSA. And the billboard that used to be on TV Highway, I remember it was like 12 years ago, was join scouting. It's more fun with friends, or something like that. It is more fun with friends. So if you've already got some young youth member that's in, I don't know, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and they've already got friends in your troop, you have a leg up on this. I want you to consider dynamic recruitment. And the way that you go about doing this is to do it in a more casual manner. I want you to visualize this with me. I want you to visualize an assistant scoutmaster having a barbecue in his or her backyard. And the assistant scoutmaster invites their scout, their youth, young man or young woman, their friends. And a lot of their friends happen to be from your troop. Maybe it's their patrol members. Maybe it's just other troop members that are roughly the same age. And they're having a backyard barbecue. They're having some games and stuff. Leave the screen time, for something else. Do something outside, right? Because scouting is outside. But this is not a troop activity. This is a friends activity, right? No uniforms, no flag, no oath and law, no pomp and circumstance. We're just grilling up burgers or whatever and having a good time, just friends. And then your youth members, maybe they know somebody. Hey, we're having a barbecue at my friend's dad's house. You want to come? Bring your mom or dad. Cool, why not? And it becomes a social event. As will naturally happen, and I can attest to this from my oldest son, the talk will eventually turn to what next camp out they're going on at this barbecue. Oh yeah, we're going to Smith Rock to go rock climbing next week. Oh, that's going to be awesome. And whoever's not a member, who's the friend who was invited, you're going rock climbing? I want to go. Well, you have to be a scout. Would you like to come to a troop meeting? That'd be kind of fun. It's a casual way to open up the conversation and build based on your unit's family. We have family. We have friends. I mean, in my troop, I could easily muster 6 scouts from one patrol in the years past. I could easily have them all come over to my house for a barbecue and just say, hey, bring a friend or two. And it might work. You never know. It's not a troop activity. And I'm going to say this very carefully. It's not a troop activity. So the bounds within the Guide to Safe Scouting with regard to things that we might not usually be able to do might not apply. You might have a group of friends that really would like to go play paintball. And maybe they want to play paintball against another group of friends. And maybe they happen to be patrol members, but right now we're friends. And we happen to invite along a couple of other friends that aren't troop members and not involved in scouting. And again, we have fun. We play the paintball or whatever it is, laser tag. I think paintball is actually not a bad idea. Not a scouting activity, right? Scout insurance doesn't apply. We're not wearing uniforms. We're not doing advancement. We're just a bunch of friends. But again, at some point, just like the barbecue idea, the conversation turns to what we're doing next in our next month's activity or our next outing or summer camp or whatever. And those friends that have come along for the ride might get interested, might ask a few questions. Well, come to our troop meeting on Monday. No, here's my email address. We're meeting over at the church, 7:00, blah, blah, blah. The key is to build on your unit's family. And the reason this works is because, and this is again, back to that survey that National did back in 2019, a very large percentage, yes, I know Cub Scouts, but it applies to Scouts BSA too. A large percentage of people joined our organization because of a recommendation from someone they know. Flyers don't work. It's the recommendation. and it's critical. The other thing I want to encourage everyone to consider, and this really works well with Cub Scouts. I think I've seen it work with Scouts BSA youth members as well, is the Recruiter Award. If you know that a youth member has recruited a friend into the scouting program, get them a recruiter patch. It goes right below their right pocket. It's very simply designated to recognize a youth who recruits a friend into scouting. Anybody who's registered is eligible to earn it. Even if somebody, Tommy Tenderfoot or Tammy Tenderfoot, if you will, recruits 5 friends, they get to wear one. So sorry. One patch is worn at a time. It's below the right pocket. Here's the key, guys and gals. There are no formal requirements from BSA National. It's not tracked in Scout Book. You can go down to the Scout store tomorrow and buy a bucket of these things. And I encourage you to do so, because then you can build a recruitment team in your youth membership and trot them up at the next court of honor and award somebody else the new recruiter award, the newest member of your recruitment team. It has worked with my Cub Scout pack. I can't even begin to tell you how important it was for the growth of my pack about 4 or 5 years ago. Use it to your advantage. Your scouts might get excited about it. I know with the age range that we're serving in troops, it's a little bit less exciting to get this little patch, but maybe, I don't know, if you make a big deal out of it, then it might be a big deal. Have your scoutmaster make a big to-do. A lot of people are going to complain about the cost of scouting has gone up so much in the past 10 years. I get it. It was $15 to be a scout 10 years ago, and now it's a lot more. There's still a value proposition to be explained here. Scouting is still a great value when compared to sports. Taekwondo, my youngest is in Taekwondo. The cost is ridiculous. We offer more in the scouting program. You could write up a slide on this. I think every single one of you could. What is scouting to you? It's outdoors, it's adventure, it's friends, it's camping, it's skills, outdoor skills, it's survival, it's the values we teach. And hey, if this is a sticker shock for the yearly dues, we also do fundraising. Do not forget to mention the fundraising that your troop does, because if your troop doesn't and you're funded by, I don't know, Intel or something else, then tout that as well. We can't just say, yes, it costs X dollars to be a scout and that's the end of it, because a scout is thrifty. They pay their own way, right? So that's the other way to spin this. I also want to encourage everyone to be visible in your community. The one that Jeff Deline touts every time we talk about it is the Wapato Showdown out in Gaston with all the cool cars. Every time they do that, scouts are there. They're fundraising, they're providing service, they're doing something, they're in uniform, they're visible. Cornelius Night Out, National Night Out is the same thing. Our Cub Scout pack did the Beaverton Celebration Parade every single year. And I kid you not, we have recruited, and Heather will back me up on this, more than one scout who literally joined because it was their life's goal to walk in a parade. And all we had to do was say, join us next year. Boom, done. Memorial Day flag placement. And I'll talk about this in a second. Those photos are fantastic. Visual storytelling. It makes a big difference. Scouting for food. You were out in our uniform. We're doing good things. And I wanted to mention, along with that, we are one of the programs that can actually, in essence, fully operate. We are an outdoor program. Lean into the outdoor adventure. We go camping every month. We have an activity all the time. Yeah, we meet indoors or whatever for our troop meetings or whatever, but we're an outdoor program. We get out, we do the things. We're going to go rock climbing. We're going to go skiing. We're going to go snowshoeing, whatever. Lean into that. And the reason I mention that is that National had for a while a Escape the Great Indoors theme. They've twisted it to what you saw before, the Adventure On, which I think makes more sense. But you can still embrace that idea of escape these 4 walls that have been around you for so long. Let's get outside. It has to be paired with a fantastic calendar of events. You have to have a program to back it up. All right. My summary on this, yes, it's more challenging to bring in a scout from the side that is not already involved in BSA in some way, shape, or form. It's more challenging than recruiting a Cub Scout usually. It's fresh off that conveyor belt, as I see it. Don't ignore that. Don't ignore the youth that are not yet currently BSA members. They can fill in the gaps in your roster that Cub Scouts will not. Be ready to explain in more depth what the scouting program is all about, what your program is about, what the scout uniform is, summer camp, rank advancement, because these folks, their families that come in, they probably have very little scouting experience, with the exception of John's example of a troop member that left and then came back to a different troop. They understand scouting, but a lot of times when you recruit a youth that is not, their family is like, what is this? This is not baseball. This is not soccer. Yes, it's different. And here's why. And it just takes more time, right? So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to take another pause and ask if there are questions. Everybody doing okay? Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Chris. Is anybody learning anything? Anybody got some new ideas? Maybe? No? Mike, you're weird. Go ahead, John.
One thing we did, our troop has is if you bring somebody, right, you bring your friend, instead of getting the recruiter patch, our Scoutmaster just has a bag of fire starters and like little flashlights and stuff. So it's a scouting thing. It's not like an expensive item, but it's hey, you brought a friend, here, you get something from the bag. Your pick, you pick what you want. And that seems to work really well. They don't really care about the patch on the uniform, but getting a little flint and steel fire starter is kind of cool. So they encourage them to bring people.
And I will speak to that very briefly. So my son visited his troop, didn't eventually join, but he did visit, and they gave him a little ferro rod with a striker, and he still has that, and he used it to start fires. And sending a prospective youth home with a tangible item is a really good, it's a really good reminder, and they might want to come back. Now, my son joined a different troop that didn't give him a gift, but it's a great idea. So and to speak to John's thing, I differentiate that from your current active scouts. I want to give them something to wear, and you could definitely have a grab bag of we give
this to the scout who brought somebody.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of a cool twist. Yeah, and I see that. Do what works for you. There's no wrong answer. There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. Do something to encourage scouts to bring in their friends. Anybody else, questions or ideas to share briefly? Okay. Before everybody goes to sleep. I know. Part 3, I promise we're getting close. This is the big picture. Let's take a big step back and ask ourselves, okay, we're going to try some of these things. We're going to try some new stuff. We're going to redouble our efforts a little bit, or maybe we're going to reach out to some new packs. But what is the big picture? Things that you can do today to, over the next 12 months, be successful. I want to go back to Wood Badge. I want to write a vision statement for my troop specific to membership. If I were in your position, and I have written goals recently about membership along with Mr. Simpson and Mr. Deline. We have a set of goals for our key 3, but I want you to consider writing a vision statement for your troop. Where do you want to be in 12 months? Where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? And then based on that vision, again, you might filter in program, you might filter in budgeting aspects, you might filter in advancement challenges or goals or visions that you have, and start writing goals. How are we going to get there from here? How are we going to get there from here for the next 12 months and then another year beyond that? And I highly encourage SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-based. Very powerful way to write goals. I know anybody who's worked at Intel is probably tired of this. Or anybody who's been to Wood Badge is probably like, yeah, SMART goals. I did that. Whatever. Use those. If you're not familiar, look it up. It's really great. Use the SMART goal strategy to map a way for you and your troop to get to that vision. And when you have that, all you got to do is make a plan for how to get there. How are we going to actually recruit X number of scouts over the next 12 months? How are we going to encourage advancement? How are we going to have a high adventure activity every year, every summer, whatever it is that your vision includes, right? And this is a powerful tool for you to keep your troop going and going on the right trajectory. Journey to excellence. Don't groan, please. I know not everybody's into it, but I am. I think it's a really good guide here. Take a look at the goals. Take a look at what your troop did, because you submitted your JTE to me over the past 2 months, right? Yes. And where are there room for improvement where is there room for improvement within the scorecard that you filled out. As I mentioned before, along with that, use Be a Scout. BeAScout.org forwards to BeAScout.scouting.org. They both work. Far too many units have stale data in their troops Be a Scout pin. I would demonstrate, but it's sad. Go check it. Do it tonight. Update your pin. It's easy. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'll at least tell you because my computer's slow right now. Key 3 or Key 3 delegate can do this. It can update via my.scouting.org and your unit's organization manager. It's the unit pin on the far left side. The most important thing is to have a live breathing person who's the contact that has a name and a phone number and an email address. Bonus for a website, don't let your website be stale. It's great if it looks good. Don't let it be a 1995, under construction. No. Meeting address is good, but it's a bonus. I know there are some concerns about youth safety and all of that stuff. Okay, so let's go back to here. I'm going to close this and I'm going to open up my.scouting and I'm going to show you, because if you haven't done it before, if you're a Key 3, you should be at least getting to know this. Log into my.scouting. Key 3 is Scoutmaster, committee chair, chartered org rep, right? And if your chartered org rep can't find the business end of computer, make sure that they assign a delegate in this tool, because that's an important thing. And we're going to wait for the spinning whirl of death to complete here. A couple of tips while we're waiting. Consider creating a unit email address. Gmail's easy. Troop123info, Troop456 leaders. You could make your own domain name, troop123.org, and it could be info@troop123.org. It's a fantastic way to go about doing that. Same thing with phone numbers. I'll come back to that in a second. So menu, I am a Key 3 delegate for my troop. So I have organization manager right here. Give it a second. And unit pin. And what you'll see is my good friend, Lisa DeCoster, who is our committee chair, is the contact person with her phone number and her email address. We have a website. We have additional unit information. What day do you meet? We have a linked troop structure. You should tout that. There are families looking for scouting for both their young men and young women. When do you meet? Where do you meet? Make sure your chartered org information is correct. It helps. And then you can define where the map puts your pin. I have one pack that for some reason their pin is in France. They're not meeting in France. We can't figure it out. It's wild. Make sure your pin is in roughly the right place. Make sure you have selected the right things that you want to show up on your pin when somebody says, hey, what troop is in my area? You want that to be the website? You want that to be the person? At least have the person in the contact information. That's how to get there from here. Okay. Create a Google phone number was a really cool idea. It's kind of a virtual thing. And I learned this from David Hammond. You can have a Google phone number set up that actually goes straight to voicemail and then transcribes that voicemail and sends people email messages. Nobody has to answer the phone and then call them back, right? That's kind of cool. Or you could be the live person that actually says, hello, how can I help you? My name is Bob. I'm with Troop 123. All right. Along with that, uh-oh, my internet connection is unstable. Heather, can you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, awesome. Thanks. John Dell, we good? Okay.
Thank you, you're back.
All right, cool. The my.scouting.org tool has two tools within it that I really want to point you to, the application manager and the invitation manager. The way you get there, we just basically demonstrated on my.scouting.org. I'll go back. I'll go back to the beginning. Your unit has an application manager. It's usually at the top of the list for your unit. And again, Key 3, and I believe the identified membership functional person in the functional roles can access it, I think. So my unit application manager, pardon me, when a youth or an adult submits an application online through, say, Be a Scout, they find your pin, they say apply now. It takes them to my.scouting, a different vector into the program. They create an account if they don't already have one. They fill out the form digitally. It comes right to here. And what you'll see is it'll land in pending acceptance. For our youth member, my understanding, and Pete, if he's still here, can speak to this. I think Pete might have bailed. I'm getting too long-winded for Pete. I believe the Scoutmaster, the committee chair, or the chartered org rep can approve a youth member. Only the chartered org rep can approve an adult. So they're a little bit different. But if you have a youth that submits an application, don't let it fester. Go look at it, deal with it, all that kind of stuff. The complement to that, I'll get to that in just a second here, is the invitation manager. And that's kind of the other way. Sorry if I'm hopping around real quick. And that can be accessed through that same dropdown, or on the right side, the left side here, you see a link to invitation. You can send an invitation to somebody to at least to apply or to get more information. This is also where if somebody goes to your bsscout.org pin and says, I would like more information, it comes straight to here. The sad thing is we have a lot of these invitations that don't go answered. So they'll be categorized. You'll see that my committee chair does a great job of following up on these things. The recommendation is please check regularly. When I was a committee chair, I would not get an email from the tool if we got an invitation. I would love to hear if the tool sends anybody here, Chris maybe, or anybody else, a note, email when they get a lead. Does anybody get that?
I have received them in the past.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I got them when I was a committee chair years ago.
Okay, perfect. When I was a committee chair for the PAC, they sent me nothing. It was really obnoxious. So we were advised at that time, yeah, go in a couple times a week and just check. You know how annoying that is? Oh my gosh. No, don't let them fester. Try to respond within 24 or 48 hours, make a connection, have a conversation. Don't just leave a voicemail. Hi, my name is Chris. I'm with Troop 124. I'd love to talk to you more about your daughter's interest in our program, right? Hi, my name is John Dell. I'm with the troop. I'd like to learn more about what your young man has, right? Be specific, make the connection. This is all about making connections. You can also make notes in this tool. And I want to give you an example really quickly. I'm going to go back go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Kim?
With the invitation manager, like if someone from a PAC wanted to apply to your troop, is that like a way you could send them the application?
That is a great question. Let me think about that for just a second. Don't let me forget. I'll come back to it. Okay. I want to give you guys a really good example of a invitation manager. I'm going to pick on Josh because he's my friend over at PAC 195. And I happen to see this. You'll notice that Josh has a lead, a young lady who would like to be a Cub Scout, I believe. And what you'll notice on the right side here is notes. Josh is responding and putting notes in when he communicates. And, did he talk on the phone? Was it an email? Did he leave a voicemail? Whatever, right? Invited to Blue and Gold Campfire, right? What happens is sometimes these don't get closed out, and there has to be a little bit of follow-up done by either the professional staff or your district membership team to say, hey, did this young lady actually join, or this young man, or whatever, right? So please do make notes. All right. I'm going to speak really briefly, stop sharing, to Kim's question. So Kim, when a Cub Scout joins your troop and they finish Arrow of Light, it's technically a transfer, right? So they can do a transfer application electronically. I'm not sure how much I trust it. And there are a variety of reasons for that, but I feel better. And this is just me. I'm weirdly old school sometimes. And Heather and a few others, know this. I like the paper form. I have a tangible copy in my hand, right? Mom or dad or grandma signed it. I can make a photocopy, I can scan it, and I can send it into the membership team at council. So yes, you can use the invitation manager to send a request to a Cub Scout to do a transfer application. And what happens is they'll go in and they'll apply to be a member of your troop. And the first thing it's asking is, are you currently a member or not? And, oh, yes, I am. I'm a member of Cub Scout PAC. And then like the second or third thing is, what's your BSA ID number? how many Cub Scouts know that? I can look that up. We can help you if you have a transfer. But usually it's Sherry Burns down at the council office looking that up on the database to make that connection. So yes, it can be done. Here be dragons. How's that? Is that a good answer to your question? Okay. Anybody else?
I did that when I transferred my younger
John.
son. I transferred my kids over, but I can look up their BSA ID number in Scout Book and have that information, and I know the system well enough. When I trust a random, not computer savvy parent to do it right, probably just give them a paper application most of the time.
Okay, so John and I are on the same page. We agree. Awesome. So I knew I liked you for some reason, John. I personally have found with the online application, brand new youth to the program are much easier. It's a little more seamless. That's just my experience. Maybe in the coming months and years, it'll be better, and we'll be given maybe a tool to look up BSA IDs. I don't know. Okay, any other questions? I've got a couple more things to touch on before we wrap up. I promise. Like 2 slides. Everybody good? And wrap this up? Okay, awesome. Thank you, guys. Okay, social media. I talked a little bit about taking pictures of, what was it? Taking pictures of your events and visual storytelling. Visual storytelling is superbly powerful. All the words in the world aren't going to explain how much fun your scouts have as compared to one picture of your entire troop laughing and having a great time climbing Smith Rock or summiting a mountain, or you fill in the blank, right? What is your mountaintop experience for your troop? You have a picture. Don't worry about photos of youth and their faces. Okay, make sure they sign the line on the medical form, and you're covered. Don't use names, maybe first names, not last names. Just keep it your scouts. Keep it group photos. It's okay to have individual photos or even small groups, but it's not something that a lot of people are way too worried about putting a youth photo online. As long as you're not identifying that youth's exact name, address, phone number, and their favorite flavor of ice cream, you're fine. Okay. Create a website for your troop if you don't already have one. Chris Bartell wants me to tell you that they still have the Wix deal that they're trying to put together. It's a instantaneous website. It's great. Or use something like WordPress or whatever. Create something that looks nice and looks like you know what you're doing. Reference the Scout Oath and Law. Talk about how you're youth led, and have some contact information. Done. Finished. You have a presence. Instagram and Facebook. Yes, I know. We're all getting old. It's always grandma on Facebook and mom and dad are on Instagram, whatever. It still works. Okay. Instagram is a great vehicle to actually tell a visual story. We went to Mount Jefferson and we climbed the mountain, and look at all these awesome pictures. We went to Butte Creek and rode horses. We went to Baldwin, blah, blah, blah. All the things that you have these photos in your troop. I guarantee it. Right. All you got to do is ask your families, hey, can you guys send me the photos off your phone of our awesome scouts doing awesome things? I love YouTube. And Heather will back me up on this. We probably recruited more Cub Scouts based on videos that we created. And we had a whole process, whole different conversation. And those videos went on YouTube. It's not perfect by any means. It's not easy to take it with you or make a photo display if you want to go to Webelos Woods, say, for instance, and talk to a mom or dad or grandpa about how great your troop is. But it's free, it's there. And yes, I understand Google is harvesting information, but if you're on Google as Troop 123, there's not much information to harvest. Ask the question, where are the parents today? Where are the youth today, right? If you want to create a TikTok account for your troop, go to town, man. Have fun, do it. Have your scouts doing a dance. Sure, why not? Make it a scouting song for all I care. There's no harm in that. Have, TikTok harvest information off of somebody's phone. Have it be a burner phone. I don't care. Just give it a try. See what happens. National has a whole bunch of stuff, and I have a link here in just a moment of some resources on the Adventure On campaign. Tons of banners, flyers, things for Facebook, for Instagram, for Twitter, for whatever you're doing, or your website. Printable flyers, the whole bit. Go check it out. The link is down here towards the bottom. Your council has a whole page on membership and recruitment, and then they reference a bunch of the other stuff here too, but they also have local things. National Council has a recruitment page. The thing I want to point you at, if you're looking for flyers or banners or yard signs or stickers or whatever, is that third link. Our council does have material request forms, and yes, all these will be online. They're all linkable. I will give you a pointer to all of this stuff. Okay. These are good resources. Please take advantage of them. Questions, comments, concerns so far?
Comment.
Sorry, what, Heather?
Always. So I'll make a comment. Always.
Okay.
Just to speak to your, I like paper still. I have recently come across the power of doing a scrapbook for your unit. So if you're going to invite Cubs to come to a meeting or come to a thing, get your troop historian or some of your youth together to throw together some photos in like an album and have it displayed. And then you can have you can just keep adding to it, or you can have one for every year or something like that, or have some parents throw one together. And then we used to also set up the laptop back when we recruited Cub Scouts to just do like a picture slideshow. So if social media is not your friend, to get like actual photos of what your unit does, you can do things like that and just have a presence at a troop meeting when you're inviting Cubs over.
Absolutely. I love it. Great idea. And when we were recruiting with our pack, we had a trifold with photos, color photos. And you could do the same with your troop. If you're going to visit, you should go visit packs occasionally. Go visit their pack meeting. I did that as a junior assistant scoutmaster about 30 years ago. 30 years ago. Sat in the back as an Eagle Scout pin on my chest, and you should see the eyes of those Cub Scouts. Wow, he's an Eagle Scout. Look at all the cool things he did. Yeah, powerful stuff, guys. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up. I'm going to share one last thing because we had to tie the loop back together. Tell them what you tell them, and then tell them what you told them, right? So what did we wish to learn today? We wanted to understand how troops typically recruit new scouts and then explore other opportunities to recruit new scouts and then step back and look at general practices. So with that, I hope we covered all those things, and I welcome everybody's questions, concerns, comments, war stories, naysayers, the whole bit. What do you guys think? Is there anything good here? Chris is sort of sure.
I think it's all good. You
Go ahead, John Dell.
really well covered like normal.
Thanks. John Dell's been coming to my breakouts for like 8 years now.
Maybe my connection's slow. Well thought out, really well presented. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, sir.
Good presentation, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah, learned a lot. Reminded me of a lot too.
Very good. Anybody else? Thoughts, comments, things that I missed, things that don't make sense, ideas that you had? Anything?
It's a little something off topic. You seem to have pretty heavy access to the Scout book. My son's name is spelled wrong. Is there a way you can fix that?
That is a really interesting question. So this is Joe, right?
Call the registrar.
My connection's a little slow. That was Joe, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me connect with you one-on-one on that, because that's interesting. And I think it's going to actually be more than just Scout book, I'm guessing. But let's work that. Let's work that individually. I've made a note. I have your email somewhere. I'll look it up. Anybody else? Scout book challenges, not my forte, but I'll try. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording so this doesn't go for an hour and a half.